So there was a bit of a kerfuffle on social media this week. A rope model posted a video of her being dropped onto her face as a result of a misunderstanding of a rope jam. A lot of the conversation has been around the ethics, morals, and relative abilities of the two people involved. That's not really my thing. I'm not into that. So instead, what I'm talking about this week is rope jams, how they happen, and how we can avoid them. Friction is essential for what we do. We need to have good control over it. And what an upline jam is effectively doing is it's friction happening in the wrong place unpredictably. I've already made a video about lock-offs and I highly recommend you check it out. It gives a lot of information about how we use friction purposefully within a suspension. We need it to happen just at the right time. We need it to be predictable. A upline jam is the opposite of that. It's unpredictable and we don't have as good control over it. To try and do this as safely as possible, I'm not using a rope model for this. I'm using my filing cabinet. Here's the setup I'm using for today. I've tied 3 single column ties on Norman and I've attached an upline to each of those single column ties. If this was a real suspension, imagine the red upline was attached to the chest, the grey was attached to the hips, and the pink was attached to an ankle. Rope jams usually happen with multiple uplines, but I just want to show you how it can happen with a single line. Here's what I aim for, which is the upline making a coil alongside of itself. But what would happen if I were to, rather than getting them cleanly alongside of each other, what if I were to place them in between each other? You can see here, just with that little slip, I've drastically increased the amount of predictable friction. In this example, it's kind of manageable. Like, I'm still able to pull the upline up, but I would recommend against doing that if you're in this situation. I recommend fixing it rather than trying to just muscle through here, because you're putting more pressure on your upline and you're more likely to damage it. Rope jams can become more of an issue when multiple errors occur. So for example here, I'm deliberately twisting my upline to simulate a non-disciplined approach towards going through the ring or the hard point. And you can see that this has dramatically increased the amount of friction because it's putting more pressure on the rope going through the ring. So in this simple example, how do I fix the problem? Grip all of the uplines. This is essential to stop a drop in case the working end flies out your hand. Once I've got a good grip of the rope, I'm going to pull the working end sharply away from the jam. You might have to do this multiple times like I did. Keep in mind that the jam is also on the back of the ring, hence why I'm pulling the rope towards the mirror on my second tug. Once the jam's clear, I'll resettle the working end where it should be. Let's have a look at a more complicated example. I've already got 2 uplines here, which are working pretty well, but I need to tie this middle upline going up the centre. You can see because of the lack of space that the upline I'm tying is getting mixed up with the uplines I've already tied. You can see where this example is going. It's either going to make it very difficult for me to undo the red or the pink uplines, or I'm going to get the grey upline mixed in with them as well. Either way, it's going to cause problems. What do I do instead? Because the grey rope definitely has to go in the middle. Luckily, if you tie on a metal ring, it's quite easy to move those uplines around. So here I just separated them to make a gap. And those uplines will usually stay where you put them. We tend to expect them to slide towards the centre of the ring, but that normally happens when you're actually pulling down on your upline. That downwards force brings it into the centre. I'm going to look at that more later because that can actually cause jams in some cases. I want to show you how easy it is to make a rope jam, even when we're tying on the right part of the ring and there's enough gap. Have a look at this. Somehow, when I pull down, it creates a jam really easily. How does this happen? Have a look at where the uplines are on the ring. Notice how they occupy the centre point and almost like overlap the centre point onto the right hand side. This means that when I add another rope here, the pink rope, it's going to want to pull into the centre when I pull the upline down. Even though I'm pulling directly down, the pink rope wants to share the same space with the grey rope, but there's too much resistance, so it stacks on top of itself. Just to show that it's not a fluke, here it is happening again. It makes a rope jam. As crude as it looks, this is how to undo a jam, but I should be grabbing the main line at the same time. The thing that will mess you up is it's not always possible to reproduce this error. I repeat this numerous times for several minutes, and half the times it jams, half the time it doesn't. I'm not going to show you the entire compendium because it's pretty boring, but you get the idea. I can avoid this problem happening by, when I'm tying on the end of the ring, pulling very slightly away from the existing uplines, like this. This stops all the ropes being pushed into one place. Let's look at another example. How can I tie on the wrong part of the ring here? All I have to do is go up and down again. No problem, on the same side. As you can see, it only takes my model here rotating a few degrees to present the entirely different side of the ring to me. And if I was less experienced, I could just go through that and assume I'm doing the right thing. See, it even turns back round, so it kind of looks right. Bear in mind this is more obvious because all these uplines are different colours. If they weren't, it would be a lot easier to make this mistake. You can see that this simple mistake has produced a really confusing situation with overlapping uplines. Just going to show you this up close so you can see the effect this mistake can have. Because of the confused paths, it's a lot easier for jams to happen. It's a lot easier for one line to inhibit another. There are very good reasons to tie in the quote-unquote wrong part of the ring, but really make sure you know what you're doing and make sure you've got a good solid system for doing that. Final example. I've tied 3 uplines, they're all in the right place, there's no jams. All I want to do is tidy up this red rope that's in my hand. To tidy up some of this excess rope, I tied 2 of the uplines together using the slack from the red upline. Again, it's pretty obvious of what's happening here because they're all different colours, but if they weren't all different colours, it might be harder to diagnose the issue. Okay, but now I decide that I want to lower the middle upline. So I untie it as I normally would. Now, for reasons I don't understand at this point, the upline isn't moving at all. I forgot about the connection that the red rope has made. So I'm like, okay, I'll untie the red rope. Just going to pause this for a second. After I undo this last red wrap, any weight that the grey rope is holding will go into free fall because it's not being supported by anything anymore. In this example, it's going to be quite anticlimactic because the pink rope is acting as a safety. I didn't feel like having several stone worth of filing cabinet land on my floor. If you have a crash mat you'd like to lend me, then I'm open to negotiation. Hey, I hope you found that useful. If you find it useful, please like or leave a comment if you've got any questions for us. Our intention with this channel is to keep good quality rope education as accessible as possible. Our hope will be to support things like this with ad revenue so that no one has to pay. Fortunately, YouTube, Instagram, the social media is not a massive fan of content like this. The vast majority of what we do gets demonetized. If giving us a small amount of financial support is possible for you, it keeps this channel going, and also we have lots of goodies and extras like extra videos over there. Thank you very much. Bye bye.